Good afternoon, Tacoma. This is Scott Willard, and thank you for joining me on the Congruent podcast. Congruence, where faith and life come together. I have been doing a lot of those things. I've been having a lot of faith and a lot of life, and they've been coming together a lot. And I am excited to share some of those things with you. It's like I've got this pause that's going on in my head. Am I truly excited to share some of those things with you? Some of those things I'm not really excited to share. I'm just going to share because I know that it's good to share. But excited is not the right word. No. But I am going to spend some time talking with you today about some things that I'm thinking about, some things that I'm living through. And I'm just, as always, I hope that as I bring this to the forefront, that it's having an impact, right? That the stories that I'm telling are helping others to recognize that they are not alone, that there's somebody else that's having these crazy, wild, out there thoughts. And that if they're having those thoughts and they're brave enough to talk about them on a podcast, then maybe it's okay for me to experience those things too. So in that spirit, we're going to talk about congruence today, where faith and life comes together. And I'm going to share a couple of thoughts with you that have been going around in my head. Before I do that, I just want to say a brief word. I've been talking for now the last month about if you want to support BD Local and the podcasts that are produced out of BD Local that make such a difference in your local community, that you can get a hold of Sadie or you can get a hold of Tim. And I'm going to give you their number. I'm sure that Sadie's going to type it into the little bar that runs underneath the video. And if you want to get your fingers limber and get ready to type, go for it. The phone number to get a hold of Tim or Sadie is 253-241-9268. 253-241-9268. They would love to talk to you about BD Local and how you can make a difference in your community by supporting the podcast that we share. And as always, if you want to specifically support the Congruence podcast, you are welcome to do that. I'd love to have another sponsor or two or three or four. So by all means, come get in touch with Sadie or Tim, and they can talk to you about how you can be one of our sponsors. And that would be awesome. Most of you probably believe that one of my sponsors is pumpkin spice. It isn't. Pumpkin spice is just that. It's pumpkin and spice. It's not a brand, right? I just love it. And so I talk about it a lot. Not really a sponsor, just something I like. I have also talked about my work with congruentmen.com and the work I do with guys that, they're wanting to see transformation in their life and they don't want to do it alone, right? They want somebody else to help hold the mirror, that they can see who and what they are and the impact that they're having on the world, that can help them to think through what the next steps are on their journey, that can help them to walk those steps. It's hard sometimes, especially today where we've had our lives so interrupted. It's hard. It's hard. And you want a coach to help you walk through that. That's what I do with congruentmen.com. I work with guys to do that. I'll work with ladies too. I recognized something almost 50 years ago. Okay. This is what I recognized. I'm a guy. And because I'm a guy, I work best with guys. That's it. And so I'll work with ladies as well, but I work best with guys because I am one. I get it. I know what it means to be a man and to deal with life on life's terms and to live in a man's skin when sometimes, quite frankly, all our society wants us to be is a hairy female. I'm just saying it like it is, all right? Sometimes it's what our society wants a guy to be. And sometimes it's what your spouse wants you to be. And as a guy, I get it. And that's why I prefer to work with guys. It's not that I don't like working with ladies. So I'll just throw that out there. And I have room now for like 2 more clients. And so if you would like to talk to me about coaching, then Sadie's going to put some information on the site. For those of you that are listening that are not actually able to see the live podcast with the video feed, then you can get a hold of me through email by going to scott@congruentmen.com. scott@congruentmen.com. Happy to talk to you about that. And I sort of prefaced this morning or this afternoon's podcast by saying that, congruence is about faith and life and how they come together, and that I've been living a lot of faith and a lot of life, and I want to talk about that. And I made the mistake of saying I was excited about it, and that word is so loaded for me to say that you're excited about something. I'm enthusiastic to talk about it, right? I'm good to talk about it. Excited? Don't know. But so, I had this revelation last week, just talking from the coaching perspective. I was talking with my coach, and I said, now with working this full-time gig, with my podcast, with ministry commitments, with, Holly and I being, just married over a year now, and my coaching and consulting business, I have a lot going on. And I was noticing that I was kind of struggling a little bit with prioritizing my time. And I used this word. I said, I'm struggling to find balance. And man, my coach got right on that. He's like, balance is BS. He didn't use those words. They weren't quite so gracious. No. Anyway, you get the idea. It's like, you talk about balance, but really it's not about balance. Really, it's about every aspect of your life being held in tension. And where you spend more time and energy on one aspect of your life, it just goes to the natural cause and effect that another area of your life is not going to be focused on. The idea that we can have all of those balls that we juggle to all be up in the air, all at the same level, all at the same time is a crazy thought. So this notion that we have as a society that we can have it all and we can have this amazing balance, he's really pushing back on that and causing me to really think. And you know what thought came to my mind? I've gone through so much change in such a short period of time that the notion of priority is sort of amorphous right now for me. And I think that the greatest sign of personal and emotional growth and spiritual growth, I would even add, that I've had was the reality that when I came to that realization, it didn't freak me out. In the past, it totally would have freaked me out. I don't know what my priorities are. Oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. What's driving this ship? What's energizing my life, moving me towards purpose and meaning? I don't know. What are my priorities? I mean, to put this in context, all right? I was that guy. Yes, I was. I was that guy that, for years, couldn't wait for a new Daytimer to come out, right? Every year, it was like this yearly ritual to get my new day timer and to lay it out. And I had like 50 pages worth of exercises to lead me to the place where I identified my values and my goals and my priorities. And then I planned those goals and those priorities so that I guaranteed that I was living the value-based life that I ascribed to. So you can imagine it kind of hit me. Oh, wow. Life has changed so fast. I really haven't consciously thought about priorities. And then I met with my coach again today, and we followed up on this conversation. And a word came up related to priorities that I just wanted to experiment with a little bit with you, if that's okay. We're talking about priorities and identifying priorities. And he says, so what's sacred in your life? And it was like this explosion went off in my heart and my mind. What is sacred in my life? Oh my gosh. You know, I'm one of those guys, and that you may not get this, right? You listen to the podcast, you see the podcast if you watch it on Facebook Live, and you see, this guy that is, engaged and exuberant and kind of over the top sometimes. But inside, I would say that most oftentimes what I actually struggle with is recognizing extreme emotions. I have this zone of emotion, right? This continuum of emotion that I feel really comfortable with. And then there's this range of emotion that sometimes I wonder if I even have a clue what it is, right? That range of emotion that's on the extreme positive side and that range of emotion that's on the extreme negative side. And of course, you're right. You're right. I'm using terms that I don't like. I don't like suggesting that there are emotions that are good or bad. They're all emotions on a continuum, right? And all emotions are feedback. They're all data. All right, got that out. Okay, I feel so good that I got that out. All right. Regardless, what hit me when he said, what is sacred in your life? This other thought came to me, and it was just boom. If there's nothing sacred to you, then there is no passion. Think about that. If you don't hold anything sacred, then how can you be passionate about anything? Heavy, right? Heavy. I mean, this was like, boom, the mic dropped on my toe. It's that kind of thing, right? And I just started thinking about that. And I want to invite you to the exercise that I'm going to engage in myself, personally. I am going to be really keeping my eyes, ears, and heart and spirit open to what is sacred. What things, what places, what people, what values are sacred. Because it is around those things that I will exhibit passion around. I am passionate about this faith journey that I'm exploring. I've been talking about it the last couple weeks, and it continues to expand. This faith journey that is is not focused on my personal lifestyle with this belief that there's some transaction that I'm engaged in with God where I can be good enough to earn His love and acceptance so that one bright morning when this life is over, I'll be with Him in glory land. This faith journey that I am passionate about is that the kingdom of God is now and not yet. It is still coming. Despite that, I'm living in the kingdom now. It is my role as a priest, as a king, as an ambassador of Christ to be Christ to the world I live in. I'm passionate about that. I'm writing that down. That's something that's sacred to me. Checking that box. All right. Okay. And that's what I'm going to do. And I invite you to do that with me, to just keep your eyes, your ears, your heart, and your spirit open to what is sacred to you. The other thing that I'm exploring in my faith walk, I'm not sure where to go with this. I'm just like the last couple weeks, I'm just gonna kind of think out loud over the airways for thousands of people. Oh my God! All of a sudden, I'm feeling anxious about this, but I'm going to do it anyway, all right? I'm just going to risk it. So there you go. There's authentic and genuine for you, all right? I'm going to risk it. I grew up, like I've said before, in a bit of a transactional religion. I grew up believing that I needed to be good enough to go to heaven. I needed to be good enough to earn the love and acceptance of Christ. Today, as I sit here, I look back and I have like this mental image of this mega church that is filled with a bunch of mannequins that are all dressed up, that have these wonderful plastic smiles on and really cool plastic hair, kind of like Tim's. And Tim's is much cooler. I'm sorry, Sadie, I shouldn't have said that. I'm just so jealous that I have no hair, that I just can't avoid it whenever I think about it. I'm sorry. Anyway, I have this mental image of this large congregation of plastic mannequins. Why plastic? Because the hard shell, the look good shell that they are portraying is covering up who and what they really are on the inside. I didn't know that back then. I didn't know. Back then, I thought that was just the way it was supposed to be. That you recognize that life and your life was a mess, but when you came to church, you did everything you could to dress it up so that when you showed up, you looked as good as you could. I didn't recognize that what the adults in the room were doing was hiding their brokenness and their woundedness out of fear that if you truly knew who and what was going on in their lives and who and what they really were, that you wouldn't love them or accept them. And that worse yet, that God wouldn't love and accept them. And so what I'm learning today, what I'm exploring today in my faith, it cracks me up. It's so elemental. You know, you track the line that led in the Old Testament prophetically to Jesus and his sacrifice on the cross. And what do you get? All the way back to Moses, there had to be a blood sacrifice for sin. And when you gave that blood sacrifice to God, your sins were covered, they were forgotten and forgiven. Christ's death and resurrection was the blood sacrifice for my sin, for your sin, for the sin of my ancestors, for the sins of my descendants to come. Think about that. When we live in such a way that we believe that we can be holy enough, good enough to earn our righteousness, who's really God in that story? Not God. Because you can be like God, because you can earn your righteousness and your holiness. But when you recognize that the only salvation you have, the only redemption you have, the only forgiveness for sin you have, the only holiness that you have came with the blood sacrifice of Jesus. When you recognize that, it takes it out of being a transaction and it makes it a gift. And this is the thing. In a transactional religion or religious practice, it is ongoing. But when you recognize, and this is what I'm playing with, all right? I don't want anybody writing books on this. If there's already a book on it, by all means, let me know. But this is what I'm thinking through, okay? I'm not preaching theology. I'm talking through theology that I'm considering. I want to make that really clear. But when I think of, that's better. When I think of a theology of gift rather than a theology of transaction. Remember, transactions are continual. You're continually transacting. But when you're thinking about a theology of gift, the gift has already been given, and our role is to receive it. Once we have received it, we treasure it and we move forward. And what we're moving forward with is becoming more and more Christ-like. Do you see the difference? It's not about this transaction of earning right place with God. It's about the right place with God's already happened. Accept it. Come to a place of acceptance. Recognize this gift that's been given for you. Embrace it. And now, live out your life with the practice of becoming more Christ-like. It's so different. And so in the context of a theology of giftedness, here's where the shift hits me, all right? Because in a transactional theology, what I grew up with, where I had to earn my right place with God, in that kind of a theology, when bad stuff happened in my life, or when bad stuff happened in other people's lives, where did we go? We went to, what hidden sin is there? What's wrong with them? What's wrong with their relationship with God? Because obviously, if it was right, they wouldn't have this problem. You see how sick that is? Oh my gosh. It's horrible. All right, I'm assigning a judgment to that. I'm just going to do it. I don't think it's good. But in this new thought, this thought that I'm really working through here, where there's this theology of giftedness, then what it recognizes is that when problems come in your life, they're there for a reason and a purpose. Is it possible that when problems come in your life, that they are an opportunity for you to walk through the problem with Jesus? To be able to recognize how he shows up in your life today? So that you can demonstrate, you can be a witness to others about how Christ shows up now. Is it possible in this thought process to believe and to accept that our woundedness is in fact our gift? Paul thought so. Think about it. Paul talked about this a lot. In our woundedness is our gift. It is in those deepest, darkest moments when we don't know what else to do, where else to go, that God shows up and he shines his light. And that's where hope comes. That's where grace comes. That's where mercy comes. And that's where love really shines. Is in those deepest, darkest problems in our life. These are things that I'm thinking through, that I'm working through. It's a transformation that's going on in my theology and my belief system about God. It's tied to so many things. It's tied to coping with the realities of COVID-19. It's tied to coping with the realities of social injustice. It's tied to coping with racial injustice. More than anything, it's tied to my desperate desire to grow closer to Christ in relationship with him. And as I dig deeper, and as I open up my heart, and I open up my mind to his revelation, to his word, to good teaching of other people, then what I begin to recognize is what I've been sharing with you. That we don't have to live a transactional lifestyle with God. We can simply accept his gift. And accepting that gift, we can love those around us. We can love our neighbors. We can love ourselves. And we can begin the pursuit of living out our life, becoming more and more Christ-like. So there you go. That's what I'm going to challenge you with. 1, identify what is sacred in your life. 2, I challenge you to become more Christ-like. I look forward to talking to you next week. Thank you so much for joining me. All right.